Well, hello. Welcome back, or welcome, whichever applies. If you're new to the channel, I watch a movie and I sit down and I talk about it. Unscripted, no real editing, no jump cuts. That's it. If that sounds fun, awesome. If not, adios. Today we're looking at probably one of my favorite films of all time. So, I mean, you can probably figure out that the rating is going to be good at this point. But yeah, we're looking at Jurassic Park. This film is one of the first films I can remember seeing in the theater. I know I've seen other movies in the theater before this. I think I saw, was it The Lion King maybe, and Free Willy, believe it or not. And what was the other one? Fly Away Home, I think I saw. Was that in the theaters before this? Anyway, it was the first like real, like, oh my god, this movie type movie that I've seen in the theaters. And it's interesting to see how the series has come since that first film. So let's just dive into it. Spoiler alert, if for some reason you haven't seen Jurassic Park, which, to be fair, actually, it was, what was it, like 6 or 7 years ago or something like that? I can't remember how long ago, but I had the opportunity to show my girlfriend at the time Jurassic Park for the first time ever. She'd never seen it. So I actually got to experience someone's first time with this movie. And man, like, I remember the first time I saw this film, and it was just... I fell in love with movies probably because of this film, and Godzilla, of course, when I was little, but this was one of the big ones. Anyway, whatever, I'm rambling. We'll save the gushing for after the basics. So anyway, spoiler alert, like I said. I'm going to be talking about the movie, scenes of the movie, and the ending of the movie. So if for some reason you haven't seen Jurassic Park, shame, and and you've been warned. Anyway. So I'll give you a brief synopsis. I mean, like I said, pretty much everyone has probably seen this film at this point, so I'm not going to go too crazy into detail. So I'll try to rush through this a little faster than usual so I can get to actually talking about the film. Which, to be fair, I think I should probably start doing in reviews more than wasting so much time on the synopsis. But anyway, that's neither here or there. Let us begin. So, we get a lovely intro of the very first encounter with a dinosaur. We have a guy unloading a shipping container or something that has a raptor in it, and it slips when the raptor moves out. It bumps it, and he falls, and he gets grabbed, and there's your first kill, and you got Muldoon yelling, "Shoot, ha!" You know, classic line. And that's our introduction to the film. Then we have a little scene with Gennaro, who is the lawyer of John Hammond, who is the owner and proprietor and CEO of the park, essentially, that we're going to be seeing at some point. He's in Costa Rica, and he's in like an amber cave, and he's trying to explain to the guys, like, the guy who died. It's a bit of an issue, and we get a little bit of subtext here, or it's not subtext, plot details, saying that the reason they get all these group of people that will eventually be brought to the island is because they need people of high scientific respect, whatever you want to say. I can't speak English, but you know what I'm trying to say. High-ranking or highly respected people in the field to sign off on the park. So that cuts to our next scene, where we meet Dr. Alan Grant and Dr. Ellie Sattler, who are paleontologists / paleobotanists for Ellie. They're on a dinosaur dig. They found bones. They're doing this radar technology where they shoot something into the ground and he's pointing out on the computer, like, explaining, like, yeah, this is crazy. This is, you know, it's no wonder how they turn into birds or whatever, or something like that. It's no wonder they evolved into birds. And then he gets a laugh. So 93, I don't remember what the scientific consensus was, but I don't know if we were 100% like confirmed that dinosaurs are birds, or birds are dinosaurs, I should say. It's a whole other thing. I mean, we think of them as separate things, but if you want to see a good detail on why I'm saying this, that dinosaurs are birds and not like there's dinosaurs that turn into birds, there's a channel called Clint's Reptiles that basically explains how, like, mammals are fish, essentially. Anyway, that's like a whole other rabbit hole, but I do recommend that channel, by the way. It's not a plug or anything, I'm not sponsored, but good channel. Anyway, you get some laughs, because again, at the time, I don't know if it was scientifically, like, confirmed by everyone consensus that they turn into birds. You have this one little snotty kid who's like, it looks more like a 6-foot turkey. So Grant decides to scare the shit out of him by telling him basically their group hunting tactics, and he's talking about how you look at it and it's bobbing his head like a bird, and that's when the attack comes from the sides, and 2 raptors you didn't even know were there. And he goes on discussing on how he'd be eaten alive, and like using this like fossilized claw to like slice his belly and showing him where the raptors would cut him. And Ellie's just like, oh my god, Alan, what are you doing? Anyway, scares the shit out of the kids. Later they're walking away. She obviously wants kids. They're a thing in this film. It's confirmed later, but I guess he doesn't want kids. Even says they smell at one point, which is kind of humorous. Anyway, helicopter comes by. Boom, enter John Hammond, who introduces himself as their biggest funds provider, essentially. At first they're like, who's this asshole? And he's like, John Hammond. They're like, oh shit, okay, it's the boss. So that was good. Yeah, and they go to the island. We get a little helicopter scene as they're traveling the island, and a little, Malcolm's classic Malcolm laugh. Ow. Anyway, I can't do it, but it's just brilliant. Anyway, the whole scene is just beautiful. The cinematography is great. We get a nice little scene of Dennis Nedry, played by Wayne Knight, who is in, I guess, some restaurant in Costa Rica before heading to the island, meeting with Dodgson, who is the CEO of a rival company who wants Dennis to steal the embryos. Gives him like a little Barbasol shaving cream canister that you can open up and put the embryos inside of it and whatnot. Dennis makes a noise that I cannot replicate, but it always just makes me laugh. Like as soon as he opens it and they pop up, he just like does this little squeal noise, and it's delightful. Anyway, it shows him like the shaving cream still works and everything. He puts it on a pie and says, don't get cheap on me. So Dodgson buys his lunch too, in addition to giving him like $750,000. So that's pretty cool. I know some of those resort lunches can be expensive. Anyway, we're on the island. We eventually we get introduced to Arnold, who's like their lead. I don't know what his role is, but he seems to be like the head of everything. And then we get an introduction to. We get a little tour thing. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead here. We get a little tour where they see Mr. DNA and all that stuff, which is fantastic. Also, before that, oh my god, sorry. It's just, there's so many good things in this movie. Okay, so initially, when they land on the island, there's the first scene with the Brachiosaur, which everyone is just like, Grant's the first one to see it, and he looks, and he's like, and he has to stand up and takes his glasses, and Ellie, meanwhile, is fascinated by this plant, which should be extinct. I'm a paleobotanist, so that would be crazy, to be completely fair. Grant literally grabs her head and like turns it, and she's like, what the fuck? Anyway, they get out and watch this Brachiosaur, and Hammond is, they ask how fast it is, and he's like, well, we clocked the T-Rex at whatever the hell he said, I think 47 miles an hour, or kilometers an hour, or something like that. You have a T-Rex, and all that stuff, and welcome to Jurassic Park, you get that line. Anyway, whatever, let's move ahead. So now we're meeting Arnold, and they do the tour with Mr. DNA, and they see the genetics lab where they're putting embryos into like ostrich and emu eggs and whatever, and hatching them that way, and they want to get off the tour, so they force the tour to stop and just take off, and John Hammond is like, what the fuck? Anyway, followed in there, we meet Dr. Wu, who becomes a key figure in the Jurassic franchise later down the road, but this is his first scene. Talking about how they genetically altered all the dinosaurs to be female, and obviously Malcolm is like, yeah, but listen, nature finds a way, that comment. Anyway, they want to go see the raptor paddock, so they do, and there's a feeding, and that's when we get our introduction to Muldoon with his wonderful line, they should all be destroyed, which is great. There's so many lines from this film that are quotable. Anyway, yeah, they should all be destroyed. Explains the raptors how they're hyper intelligent. They were attacking the fences like in different spots and remembering which spots were not weak spots. So they're intelligent, problem solving. They got memory. They tear this cow apart, which we don't see, but when they pull up the hoist, it's all like ripped to shreds and stuff. And lunchtime. So they go and have, which I must say looks delicious. There's like a Chilean sea bass. And every time I see this in the film, I'm like, oh, I want to try that. So stupid. Anyway, they're discussing basically the implications, be it moral or, possible issues that they could have with the park. And the three experts, Malcolm, Grant, and Sattler, are all kind of like, yeah, this is like a pretty big thing that could go wrong pretty quickly. And the lawyer right away is seeing dollar signs, right? Gennaro. And there's a comment like, the only one on my side is the blood-sucking lawyer or something like that. Anyway, they're here. Who, might you ask? The grandchildren. Yes, we have children, which is an ongoing trait in the Jurassic franchise. Which, I'll be honest, great in this film, but we should do a Jurassic film down the road where there aren't kids. Unpopular opinion? Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, we'll talk more about that later, too. Let's get through the plot here, because I'm taking way too much time. It's already like 10 minutes in, or 11, or whatever. Anyway, kids show up. They start the little tour. They go past the Dilophosaur paddock, and Grant and Ellie are all like, oh my god, Dilophosaurus! And of course, it's a no-show. They go past the T-Rex paddock. No-show again. They even put a goat out on a little chain to try to lure it out. Nothing. They keep going, and Malcolm's explaining chaos theory, essentially, to Ellie, who's kind of into it. He has her hand, puts a little drop of water. He's explaining how, like, you'd think it would run the same way when I drop the second one, but it doesn't. Chaos theory, blah, 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 blah. And then Grant just stops and looks in there. He gets out of the moving vehicle. And he's like, see, and that's right there. That's chaos theory. Wait, I didn't expect that to happen. Nobody thought Dr. Grant would just... And then she follows Alan. And he's like, and that's another example. And here I am sitting by myself talking to myself. So that's fantastic. Anyway, where did they go? Sick Triceratops. Very cool. We all know that scene. This gentleman, Dr. Harding, who's there. I don't know if it's any relation to Sarah Harding of the second film, but... very, very small role, but a fun thing to note is his role in the book was much larger. We'll talk about the book a little later, too. Anyway, sick Triceratops, Ellie stays, the rest go back because there's a storm coming. Obviously not ideal, right? So they're going to continue the tour tomorrow. They get back in the little rail... They're like Ford Explorers on like a rail system or whatever. So like driverless, they got interactive CD-ROMs, all that kind of cool 1993 stuff. And they head back. Storm rolls in. Dennis starts his plot. He's like, hey, I'm going to go get a soda. Anyone want a soda? Oh, by the way, I've debugged all these things that you asked me to do. And, some systems are going to be shutting down temporarily, but don't worry about it. Cool. They kind of just brush it off. Dennis, at this point, had already had an argument about his wage with John, like a couple of minutes ago. And, Dennis, I'm not getting into another one of these financial battles with you. I understand you have problems with your problems, all that stuff. So... Dennis feels kind of burned, essentially, and that's why he's selling out the company that he works for to this other company. Almost don't blame him, to be completely real with you. Not that I endorse, sabotage or stealing or anything like that, but I get the motivation. So, he really is played out as the villain, but I mean, he's just a guy who feels wronged, and he is a villain also, so there you go. Anyway, whatever. He goes and he steals the embryos and he puts it in the thing, and the little Barbasol can, and he takes off into the night to go find the East Dock, where he's going to be picked up and taken off the island. At this point, most of the non-senior staff have been evacuated from the island, so due to the storm and all that kind of stuff, whatever, it doesn't matter. So so Dennis goes through the gate and all that, and he's headed, and it's raining pretty hard, and those window and glasses are fogging up. He ends up hitting the sign that says the East Dock, and like the little arrow is like all out of whack now. And he's like, okay, well, what the hell do I go? The road splits. So he drives one way, and he comes to sort of a cliff area overlook, and he looks down, and there's the road going to where he needs to go. So he's like, okay, well, I will just winch myself down, which he does. There is a funny little part in this scene where they add a little like whoop sound effect when he slips, like, a cartoon like slipping on banana peel sound effect. They throw that in there, which is hilarious. Haha, fat guy fall down, I guess. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, that's fun. He goes down and starts putting the winch around a tree, and all of a sudden little Dilophosaur, hello. And he's like, yeah, that's nice. He just leaves to go deal with the truck. The little guy follows him. Cute little guy making cute little chirpy noises. genuinely cute, I think. I don't even care. He's like a little playful little scamp, right? Whatever. He's like, oh, you're not like your big brothers. You're not so bad. What do you want? I don't got food. I'm soaking wet. What do you want from me? Picks up a stick, and he's like, you want to play fetch? And he throws it. Stick, stupid, whatever. And yeah, no wonder you're extinct. Anyway, before heading up, he's like, I'm going to run you over when I come down. Anyway, goes back to his truck. Little guy's following him. He looks. Spit on his shirt. He's like, what the hell is this? He's like, okay, I'm not dealing with this. Heads back to his truck, opens the door, turns around, which is his big mistake. By now his glasses are gone too. He's like, I can afford new glasses. Well, maybe you should have found them, because now you're blind because you got spit in the face. So he's like, okay, and it burns, and he's screaming. And he gets into the vehicle, and you hear the frill go up again, and rah, and then you see an outside view of it eating him in the vehicle. Through foggy windows, of course, because we don't want to, we want this movie to not be rated R, so... Dennis is dead. Hooray. Back at the command area, they have no way of rebooting this system without Dennis, apparently. He gets locked out. Arnold, he's trying to get into the computer. You get that lovely little he didn't say the magic word, which is fantastic. Meanwhile, the power is shut down, and where are our heroes? They are in front of the T-Rex paddock again. On their way back, that's where the power decides to fail out, and we have the T-Rex breakout scene, which is so good. Just everything. Where's the goat? Thump. You got just the way the fence wires are pulling out and how the things are bending and like in the rain and everything, and you see the T-Rex eating the goat and stepping out, and the roar, and even the lead up where you have the little glasses of water with the vibrations in the water. Just such a good scene. Anyway, T-Rex breaks out, causes havoc. Even before it steps out, Gennaro runs and hides in the bathroom. Clearly the kids are like, oh god, that's not good. When you gotta go, you gotta go. That's Malcolm's expression. Anyway, then T-Rex decides to come out and starts looking at Grant and Malcolm's vehicle and snooping around, and I guess Lex in her infinite wisdom decides, well, I'm not going to let them get eaten by this dinosaur, so she turns on a flashlight, and obviously it's attracted to the light, and they're like, oh my god, what are you doing? Turn off the light. Anyway, long story short, T-Rex ends up attacking that car, flipping it upside down, the glass breaks, goes through the roof and tries to eat them, and it flips the car, and little details are cool about this, because at first when the car is overturned, like if it was a dinosaur, you go for the stomach, right? So it goes and pulls out like a chunk of like the muffler or something, and it's like, okay, this isn't food, and it looks and it sees the tire and bites it, and it's like, oh, okay, squishy. So that's kind of cool. It's like the dinosaur figuring out, okay, squishy, this must be like a vulnerable spot, like the skin or something. Anyway, little side thing that I thought was neat. Meanwhile, the rain has caused the ground outside of the track where the thing is flipped over on its back to turn into mud, which is seeping into the vehicle. Yada, yada, yada. Long story short, Grant's like, okay, well, we can't let these kids get eaten. So he grabs a road flare out of the back and, the famous luring the Rex. Rex sees it, and he throws it through the fence. The Rex is about to go through the fence, and then for some reason, Malcolm decides to do the same thing. And even Grant is like, Malcolm, freeze, get rid of the flare. But he's running, he throws the flare. The Rex is already focused on him. He can see him running. Doesn't care about the flare. And that's when he runs to the bathroom, and T-Rex smashes through the bathroom. Malcolm goes flying, and then you see Gennaro on the toilet like, oh shit. Oh. He gets eaten. Delightful. Grant, while this is all happening, is running back to the car to get the kids out. He gets Lex out, who then screams because the T-Rex is back. It's moving the car around. Tim's still in the car. It ends up like flipping it over the ledge, and they narrowly escape getting crushed as they're climbing down the ledge. T-Rex is now pissed off once the car is over. Anyway, the car goes over. Tim falls down. They're stuck in the tree. They go back on the ground, and Grant's like, all right, I'm going to get your brother. Oh, for fuck's sake. What an adventure, eh? What a great time on this island. Thanks, Hammond. The visual of Jeremy Clarkson just yelling, Hammond, just popped into my head, which is kind of hilarious. But anyway, rescues him out of the tree, etc. Yeah, so then it's been a while. Ellie and Muldoon go out on John's request to rescue the people who are stuck there. When they see the T-Rex coming out, he pulls Muldoon aside and like, would you be good enough to go rescue my grandchildren? He's like, yeah, of course. So they head out with a Jeep. They find Malcolm still alive. He has like a uses belt as like a tensor thing on his leg, whatever. T-Rex is not there at the moment, so they load him in the thing. Ellie sees the car, goes down, sees footprints. As they come back up to the Jeep, that's when T-Rex bursts out, and there's that wonderful Jeep chase scene, which is fantastic also. Yeah, just the whole everything about the T-Rex escape scene is just so good. Of course, you got Malcolm's little line. You think they'll have that on the tour or whatever? I just got to throw that in there. Anyway, they're back at the command center and they're looking at how to get this shit all set up. So they flip the things manually and the power goes on, but the lights and the phone and computers don't go on. So they blew a breaker of some kind. Arnold's like, that's fine. It's literally just on the other side of the compound. I can like be there and back in like 3 minutes. No worries. He goes. Yeah, well, he doesn't make it. So eventually they send Ellie to go do that. Meanwhile, we have our lovely scene with the brachiosaurs. They've climbed up to a tree to spend the night. You got Grant warming up to the kids finally, even though he didn't really like kids at first. All the little you think you saurus jokes, etc. And yeah, brachiosaurs, and Lex is all scared, and they're like, not metasauruses, they're vegisaurs. So she's like, all right, that's cool. Anyway, yeah, like I said, sorry. Next morning, they head out and they come to the perimeter fence. And I apologize. This is when they decide, okay, well, we got to go do the breakers manually, etc. Arnold hasn't come back, so I'm going to go deal with this. So Ellie goes with a walkie, gets to the... Muldoon accompanies her with a shotgun, and she's like, okay, I see the door. We can make it. He's like, no, we can't. Right through those bushes, there's a raptor. Wonderful. He's like, I got her. Don't worry about it. Run. He's got her covered, so she bolts. Gets into the storage maintenance shed or whatever, where the main breakers are in the basement, and goes and deals with that. They give her kind of directions over the radio, and she flips the breakers one by one. At the very bottom, you see perimeter fence, and lo and behold, Tim is getting a little nervous. Lex and Grant are already off, and they're like, okay, Tim, you gotta jump, because the light goes on, and it's like, oh shit, power's coming back. It's like, okay, finally, eventually, it's like, okay, I'm gonna count to 3. 1, 2, and then, yeah, he goes flying. Grant ends up resuscitating him, which is great. They get back to the compound. Grant's like, okay, I gotta go find the others. He goes out to look for everyone and runs into Ellie running for her life from the raptor that attacked her. So in the basement of this facility, after she turned all the power, right like through the pipes or whatever, or the wiring, you see a raptor head come, and an arm falls. She's like, oh, thank God, Mr. Arnold, and it's just his arm, and that's it. So she bolted it, runs into Grant, run! They head back. Meanwhile, in the compound where the kids were dropped off, we got that wonderful Jello scene where she starts shaking and you see the raptor's head. And then we have the also fantastic kitchen scene where they're basically stalked in this kitchen by 2 raptors. Whole thing of them knocking pots over and Lex distracting it by hitting like a soup ladle on the ground, and it runs at her and she's trying to hide, and it ends up being a reflection. The raptor smokes its head, and Tim runs into the freezer and it chases him and slips, and he ends up locking the door on it, so it's in the freezer. The other one's regaining his consciousness as the others run off. They end up meeting up with Ellie and Grant again, and they end up going into the control area to try to be safe, essentially. They have a gun, but the doors aren't locking, and this raptor's trying to break in, and lo and behold, Tim is like, oh my god, what do I do? Instead of like handing the gun to them, but he's a kid, so whatever. He's a scared kid. I'm not going to yell at him for that, but I'm going to yell at him for that. Luckily, Lex knows the program that the park is running on, so she uses her elite hacker skills. Oh my god, I just said elite hacker skills. I'm so sorry. To get the power back. You see the door lock goes. Grant grabs the phone, calls Hammond. Hammond and And Malcolm looked like, the phones are up. Hammond answered. He's like, Grant's like, the phones are on. Or the phones are working. And then you hear through the other line as Hammond's listening to, oh my god, it's coming through the glass, and like shotgun fires and all this shit. And obviously Hammond's freaking the hell out. They end up running into they climb up into the rafters or the ceiling air ducts or something like that, and Raptor jumps up and Lex almost falls through, and they end up in the main compound area with the Tyrannosaurus skeleton, and I don't know if it's like a Diplodocus or Diplodocus or whatever you want to call it, some kind of long neck thing. Anyway, cue the Raptors. We got 2 of them. Anyway, I guess the other one's still locked in the freezer, right? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, 2 of them come and they've got them kind of cornered, or maybe it's all 3. I don't remember. Whatever. Got them all cornered and they're about to attack, and all of a sudden, T-Rex comes in and saves the day, and hooray! So it eats the Raptors essentially, throws them through the skeletons. Grant runs out and has one little last one-liner of, after careful consideration, I have decided not to endorse your park. And Hammond's like, yeah, me too. And they drive off, and the T-Rex roars, and that dinosaurs rule the earth banner falls, and it's just cinematic perfection. And on the ride home, you have a nice little look of Ellie looking at Dr. Grant, who has the 2 kids, like, exhausted and cuddling him, like, asleep, and Grant smiling, and she's like, nice, he wants kids now. And we get a nice little shot of pelicans, reminding us once again that dinosaurs are birds, and that's the end of the film. Boom. Oh my god, that took way longer than it should have. I am sorry. Chances are you probably skipped ahead to this part anyway, if you're even still watching. So, what are my thoughts? Well, I have many, and like they're pretty much all positive. So I'll try to get some negatives. I'll try to figure some stuff out. And the only thing I can really think of is, there's some continuity errors a little bit. Like there's one scene where like the T-Rex sniffs and Grant's hat flies off, and then the next scene he has his hat on. Like big friggin' deal. The video Nedry's watching of whatchamacallit, the guy on the dock telling him to hurry up, they're not going to wait forever, is like literally a Windows Media Player video. You can see the play bar going, but whatever. That's fine. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't detract from anything too terribly much. What else? Honestly, that's about all I can remember off the top of my head. What other negatives could there possibly be about Jurassic Park? Really not many. So let's talk about the positives. This is a 1993 film. Now, granted, it's a big budget film. It's a summer blockbuster, and it's a Spielberg film. So, yeah, it's going to be pretty solid. But for the time, the mixed use of computer-generated visuals and practical effects is dead on. It nails it. Like, I really wish that movies would do something similar. Like, yeah, CGI is great and all that, but like use some practical too. And so many movies just do everything in CGI, like even the backgrounds and stuff now. It's glaringly obvious. Where in this one, there's a couple of scenes where you can tell, okay, that's looks sort of CGI-ish, but it holds up surprisingly well for a film that's like, how many, 30-something years ago? I don't even know at this point. But like, yeah, the effects I cannot praise enough. I think it was, is it Stan Winston, who did the effects for this film, and he did other films like, I think he did Terminator, he did Pumpkinhead, so like everything he does is also great. A fun little thing I found out is that they originally wanted to go with stop motion for the larger dinosaur scenes where they couldn't use animatronics, where they needed to move more fluidly. And CGI was kind of a new thing back then. When they showed kind of a demo of how CGI is going to go, even the stop motion guys like, well, I'm out of a job. But they utilized him. And this is where I think, this is probably why the CGI worked so well. Is he, from what I can understand, is he sort of did the movements still in stop motion, essentially with like the little sensors or whatever, and they put CGI on top of it and smoothed it out. I think that's what happened, and therefore everything is so much more fluid and realistic than any other CGI at the time. What little CGI there was at the time, I should say. And I don't know if that's what it is, or it could be part of the cinematography too. Like, a lot of the CGI stuff was done in like the rain or the dark, which helps mask some of the, you know, glaringly obvious CGI. So, you know, the scene in the end scene with the T-Rex versus the Raptors or whatever, like you can tell it's CGI, but it's not bad CGI. That's the thing. But like, because of the lighting, it's more obvious that it is. But that being said, it's still better looking than a lot of movies that came out like 10, 20 years after it. And I don't know how they did that with 1993 technology. So anyway, I've gushed on long enough about that, but that is like a huge thing that makes this movie good, is the believability of it. Let's talk about the actors. So the casting is fantastic. Sir Richard Attenborough, who's David's brother, by the way, the guy who does all the BBC stuff. That's fun. He was Santa Claus, all kinds of... So he's like an established actor. Very good. Got Jeff Goldblum, which, I mean, come on, that's self-explanatory. It's Jeff Goldblum. Like, really, you know? Sam Neill, which, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated actors. Guy nails every role that I've seen him in. Maybe there's something out there that isn't great, but... if he's given a good script, especially, like, he really nails his roles. I don't know. Anyway, Laura Dern, also phenomenal. Most of the stuff I've seen her in has been pretty solid too. Who else we got? I don't know the gentleman's name who plays Robert Muldoon, but awesome. You got Samuel L. Jackson. Come on. You got Wayne Knight. Like, you want to get a guy that's kind of like a sneaky little shit, you get Newman from Seinfeld. Like, that's brilliant. So casting is perfect. Everyone nails their role pretty much exactly as it needs to be. Yeah, I mean, trying to think of like anything else that I can think that was improved on over the years, really. I mean, CGI has gotten a little bit better, to be fair, but it seems it's polished more, but it's less natural. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm not going to talk about the CGI anymore because I went on long enough about that. The thing that I love about this film more than anything is it has that perfect mix of, like, you know, being, I don't know what the term is, like enchanted or infatuated or like amazed by like the visuals of like the splendor and the, oh my god, this is the most beautiful thing. Like when they see the brachiosaur, like, oof, you feel that moment, you know what I mean? When they see the triceratops, everything, all the things that are beautiful, it's just done great. You have really good dialogue. The conversation of like in the when they're having that delicious looking Chilean sea bass. Oh, I want to try that. I've never had Chilean sea bass. Irrelevant. And like the whole little Petticoat Junction thing where Hammond is telling Ellie about like his little flea circus and that, and Mummy, I can see the fleas and stuff like that. And how he wants to give the world something that's not an illusion, which led him to do, you know, Jurassic Park and all that. Like, everything is just really good in the dialogue. And then you have the horror element, which, in my mind, almost every Jurassic Park or World film after has not quite nailed. They've had moments, don't get me wrong. But not as perfectly balanced as this film. And that is, it's, to me, that's what I want to see in a film, is like everything. The splendor, the dialogue, and the scares, the horror, all that kind of stuff. And it's just, it nails it. Oh, man. So, I mean, I don't know what more I can say about this film. Other than that, there's nothing really to rip on it for. Though, again, it's super quotable. Like, all these lines, like, you know, welcome to Jurassic Park, life finds a way, you know, the whole blood-sucking lawyer thing. That's one big pile of shit. Like, oh, man, it's so good. Yeah, where's the goat? They should all be destroyed. They do move in herds. Like, so much It's just such a the cultural impact that this film has is undeniably massive, and in my mind rivaled by what, maybe like Star Wars or something like that. Like, it's so good. But enough about that. I've gushed about this way too much. Now let's talk a little bit about the book. So the book, I will say, is also phenomenal. I'm not gonna be one of those snobs who's like, the book's way better. Do I think the book's better? Yes and no. So some of the changes from the book that they made is, one of the big changes is Gennaro. He is, in the book, a lot more of like a heroic figure. He actually lives in the book. Spoiler alert for the book, sorry. Lots of characters who die in the book live in the film. Like, I guess I'll put a spoiler for this little section, most spoilers about the book. But Hammond dies. Malcolm dies, even though in the sequel book he's like not dead. But like initially the idea was he dies. Muldoon does not die, which I don't know if that was a good call or not, to kill him in the movie, because I don't know. It worked though. Like it worked. But I might have kept him alive. Now, what they did is there was another character that I'm drawing a blank on his name, but Gennaro's character, they sort of used his traits. So there was like a cowardly guy who gets eaten by the Rex, that they just eliminated his character and gave those attributes to Gennaro, I guess. So that's fine. I mean, with a movie, you don't want to like overcrowd it with way too many characters. That's why, like, Harding, for example, his character was like significantly reduced. Same with Henry Wu. His character is reduced significantly in this film, which is fine. Again, you got a movie which is going to be, between 1.5 to 2 hours at that period of time. That was the average, so you don't want to go crazy with too much exposition. Other differences in the book, one of the most notable scenes that's missing is the river scene. So in the book, there's a scene where Grant and the kids get on a raft and they go down the river, and there's a whole other scene with like a Dilophosaurus that they're like about to be attacked by, and then they get scared off by the Rex who comes, and there's a whole river thing, which they sort of did in Jurassic World Rebirth. I think they kind of stole that scene. Not stole, but utilized that scene from the first book. So that was in there. Some of the deaths were a little bit more extreme, and the most extreme of those ones that I can think of is the Dilophosaurus kill of Nedry. So in the book, they go into graphic detail about like how he's literally like disemboweled, and as he's blinded, he reaches down and feels something warm, and he's holding his own intestines, and it's like, oh my god. And it describes how he feels the dinosaur's jaws clamping on his head, and the pain is so excruciating that at that point all he can do is wish for death, and it's like, oh my god. Yeah, so that's intense. I understand why they couldn't do that scene the way it was in the book if they don't want to make it rated R, so I get that. But another thing that's interesting too is the Dilophosaurus in the film is smaller. So I've always assumed that it's a juvenile. In the book, it's like a full-grown one. Like, these things grow like 20 feet long or whatever. They're much bigger, so I'm assuming this is a juvenile, but I don't know. Anyway, they should be slightly bigger than raptors in this movie, which, funny thing, a velociraptor in real life is like a chicken size, a little bit bigger than a chicken. They were using, in the film, I guess it's a Deinonychus or whatever was the model that it's... I read a whole thing of how, like, raptor is, like, now the term for all of the dromaeosaurs, or are they dromaeosaurs? Is that what they're called? The pack-hunting, like, sickle-claw foot ones. Or raptor is, like, a blanket term. So I guess they use raptor, even though it's a whatever. But they specifically say velociraptor. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Creative liberties, right? Yeah, so that's pretty much the differences between the book that I can remember off the top of my head. Just the book was a lot more visually, or like descriptively violent and gory. So would I one day like to see a Jurassic film with that taken into account? Yeah, that would be really cool. If we could get an R-rated Jurassic film, that's like a lot of fans' dreams, to be completely honest. But again, I get why we don't get that. So we probably won't, to be completely fair. But I'm glad that some of the other movies have started bringing back some of the horror aspect, which we'll talk about when we get to those films down the road. But just as an example, there are some scenes, even in Jurassic Park 3, in Jurassic World with the Indominus, Dominion, I think it was. Was it Dominion? Yeah, it was Dominion with like the haunted house thing, the whole raptor in the house situation. That was like horror feeling. And even the new one, there was a little bit element of horror in it, which is, it's nice to see that they're still implementing some of this into these movies. Oh man, I'm rambling way too long. This is already over 40 minutes. So you know what? No surprise to anyone. What am I going to rate it? It's a 10. This is as close to a perfect movie as, for me, in my opinion, for what I'm looking for in a film. This is as close to a perfect movie that I think I'm ever going to see. So I'm going to give it a perfect 10 out of 10. So it holds the distinction of being one of 2 films I've ever reviewed that got a 10 out of 10. The other one being Godzilla -1. Also, check that out. So that's Jurassic Park. Again, one of the most groundbreaking films ever. Has held up, holds the test of time, or whatever you want to call it. It's still phenomenal. Every time I watch this movie, it's always a fun adventure. I've seen this probably, I want to say, like 50 times at this point. Like, it's probably my most rewatched movie ever. And every time I watch it, I still have a blast. So based on that, if you haven't seen this, should you? Yes. What are you doing? You have to. If you like cinema, you have to see this movie. It's one of those films that you have to see. And there's no debating about it. It's not a debate. So, anyway, we'll leave it at that, because this is going on way too long. And it's a movie that everyone in the world has pretty much seen. I'd say like 90% of people who have the ability to see this movie have seen it. So anyway, unless you're like my ex and you haven't seen it, then you know what I'm talking about. And if you're like her, then you have to absolutely see this. And we'll leave it at that. So we'll do something a little bit more, a little bit less high praise next or whatever. But I figured I'd break up the, 5s and 6s with something pretty exciting. Anyway, we'll cut it there. Yeah, I say good day.
It's cool and compartmentalized inside.